Coming up, Spanish bullfighters use acrobatics to tame bulls in Mexico. In Cambodia, one of the country's most popular culinary delights is in season. Deep-fried cricket, anyone? And a New York apartment is home to 1,000 endangered turtles. He's a good kitty. He's the cat's meow. And this is the story of his rise from an obscure litter to stardom. In the course of 18 months, Kuja has literally come in from the streets and learned to pose, purr, jump, climb, and perform super feline acrobatic tricks. This coming theatre season, Kuja will join the ranks of the 120 performing cats from the Kuklachov Cat Theatre. But the road to bright lights, adoring fans and kitty fame hasn't been easy. Kuja's long climb to stardom began with the most bleak of prospects. He was an unplanned kitty cat born into a home that simply couldn't keep another kitten. But his owner hoped and dreamed they could find a better life for Kuja. In a long-shot chance, she brought him to the Kuklachov Cat Theatre for auditions. The theatre rarely accepts cats from the street. It can breed its own with fine acting pedigrees. But Kuja's lack of fear and curiosity impressed veteran circus clown and theatre owner Yuri Kuklachov. Kuklachov agrees to take Kuja into the theatre on one condition. The theatre's resident veterinarian must examine and approve the mixed Siberian Shorthair. It's a crucial exam. Not only must Kuja be healthy, he must be on good behavior. For if he scratches Dr. Loginov and generally raises a kitty ruckus, then the good doctor can say niet and Kuja is back out of the door. A few days later, the blood samples reveal a healthy cat and Kuja is formally handed over to the theatre. The new cats give him the smell down. He's one of the troupe. In a sense, Kuja now has it made. For once Kuja enters the theatre cage, the theatre promises to keep good care of him no matter what type of actor Kuja turns out to be. Of the 120 cats, only a few of them are big stars. It's up to Yuri Kuklachov's son, Dmitry, to find out what Kuja's fate will be. Dmitry enters Kuja into an intensive training program of several hours each day to discover his strengths and work through his weaknesses. It's absolutely necessary for a cat to feel relaxed and comfortable to perform. Kuja, it turns out, is a jumper and pole walker. These are skills that place him on track to possibly become one of the theatre's stars. Dmitry slates him for a performance, and just 7 months after he joined the troupe, Kuja will walk along a narrow wooden pole with loud music blaring and hundreds of kids cheering and laughing. Looks like all that love has paid off for Kuja and the circus. To bigger and more unfortunate cats now. Caged up, exhausted and with nowhere to go, 17 circus lions in southern India are looking for a home. The former crowd pullers were among the hundreds of animals freed by circus owners after the country's apex court banned live performance by wild animals in 2001. Supported by their owner for over 2 years, they were finally brought to Bannerghatta, a rehabilitation centre 30 kilometres from Bangalore, meant specifically for working animals. The zoo, however, refused to take them, saying it was overcrowded. The lions are currently stuck in cramped cages parked on a road outside the zoo. The caretaker of the big cat says the animals would have to live in cages till zoo officials agreed to take them in. The age of the 10 male and 7 female lions ranges from 10 to 25 years. They can't be released in the wild as they were born in captivity. Bannerghatta is their only hope of survival, but the 30-acre reserve, the only one of its kind in India, is already under immense pressure. There are over 200 animals staying here, which was originally meant for half that number. Officials say plans are underway to start rescue centres in 6 other states. However, much of the plan remains on paper. audience members lined up outside Jorge El Ranchero Aguilar Stadium in Tlaxcala, Mexico, to watch bullfighters with a difference. 6 Spanish bullfighters have wowed Mexican audiences by using acrobatics to tame bulls. One of the acrobats, Luis Miguel, said to have power over the bull, to guide the bull, to feel the danger coming towards you, and to look at its face when it charges is a great sense of power. He added that it's a beautiful animal that he really admires. The show, called Los Recortadores, is expected to visit several other Mexican cities before heading on to a Latin American tour. Well, at least they're not sticking swords into it. But to a more sedate part of Mexico now, Ixtapa Beach, some 250 kilometers south of Mexico's tourist hotspot, Acapulco. Mexico's answer to Australia's crocodile hunter attracts thousands of tourists each year, with dozens of crocodiles named after soccer players. This is Roberto Tamacun Pizarrios, who works out of the Playa Linda Reserve, and he's been hired to ensure the animals don't escape. Slowly, crocodiles up to 5 meters long emerge from the water, heeding his call. He says the Tarzan scream is like a referee's whistle, which invite players, referring to the crocodiles, to gather around him. Roberto calls the players by their names, and they answer to his call and join to train before the match. Roberto, who's blind in one eye, rewards his loyal crocodiles with loads of fresh fish, as tourists ask him to be careful.
Por su edad ya no puedes. Así es como el hombre y la bestia, el animal se dieron a conocer. Está bien, muy bien, eso. Así es.
Visitors to the park often gaze in amazement as Tamacun lies across the backs of the crocodiles while they eat. Of the 80 crocodiles that live in the reserve, the Mexican Crocodile Dundee says he's raised 47 of them. Tamacun, a name he chose for himself in honor of an African athlete whom he's always admired, said he realized that he could communicate with animals early on in his life. He started grabbing all kinds of animals: snakes, spiders, eagles, crocodiles, boas, vipers, and none of them bit him. Well, let's hope that if that first bite ever does come, it doesn't come from a crocodile. Caterpillars have infested tens of thousands of poplars in South Beijing, and they're crawling everywhere looking for food. Stripped naked of their leaves, these poplars have barely survived the recent scourge of the caterpillar infestation. Within the first half of July, a swarm of the greedy insects has descended on the woods in the southern outskirts of Beijing and eaten all they could. Tens of thousands of trees have lost their leaves to the grub. The poplars were planted 3 years ago as part of a campaign to turn Beijing into a greener city, at a time when the Chinese capital was fighting increasingly more sandstorms. Authorities hoped that the trees would consolidate loose earth in a green belt around the city, but then gave up on this kind of poplar because their spring seed, flying everywhere in big white fluffs, soon became a nuisance. Abandoned with no one coming round to spray insecticide, the young trees were quickly infested with the caterpillars of moths. After they finished eating all the leaves and had nothing more to eat, hundreds of them crawled on the roads, inside people's houses, and even on people's clothes. China regularly faces pests like these that destroy entire crops in a short amount of time, with locusts being the most common plague in the country's north. Still on the subject of things that crawl, in Phnom Penh's central market, tourists flock for cheap deals in jewellery, clothing, books and souvenirs, but most hurry past the piles of fried snacks on sale, because in Cambodia it's cricket season, which for the locals means the plentiful supply of one of their favourite culinary goodies. Villagers in the deeply impoverished Southeast Asian nation are rushing into the fields each night to snare the hopping insects hatching in their millions at the start of the rainy season. Flash fried with garlic and salt, crickets, spiders, water beetles and a host of other creepy crawlies are choice delicacies in Cambodia. Sok Tia comes to the market every day to sell her piles of crickets and tarantulas, but she admits that sometimes she seems to eat more of them herself. But in order to fill the stomachs of Phnom Penh's gourmets, Cambodia's cricket catchers must go into action. Kampong Thum, Cambodia's central province, is known as the home of crickets. Every night during the rainy months of May, June and July, villagers in the province stay up to set their cricket traps. Using high-powered ultraviolet lights set up behind clear plastic, they lure the unsuspecting insects into traps filled with water. Driven out of their holes by the rain, crickets swarm towards the traps in their thousands, leaping towards the light. Excited village children run around catching them by hand and proudly compare their hauls. The next morning, as the sun rises, the families come out to empty their traps and see how well they've done. The crickets are then scooped up and sold in markets across the land. Tuj Lorne has been trapping crickets for over 5 years. A farmer, he says the income from the annual cricket season is an invaluable contribution. Today he caught 5 kilos of crickets. He'll take them to the market and sell them for about 50 cents. He says it's easy money. You can just set up the light and plastic and watch the cash come flying. This year's been considered a bumper year so far, and some nights Tuj has caught over 20 kilos of crickets. But he says a small haul is better. Oversupply pushes the price down. Back in Phnom Penh, as the heat goes out of the day, people gather by the Mekong to enjoy the sunset, talk, sell flowers and, of course, to snack on crickets. Many say that the culinary potential of crickets and other insects was first discovered by starving peasants during the dark days of the Khmer Rouge. Recent research by Thai scientists suggests that the bugs are a very healthy food choice, stuffed with calcium, protein and iron. Apparently, a large cricket delivers more protein, 20.6 grams per 100 grams, than beef, pork or chicken. But Perch Saran, who walks the streets of Phnom Penh selling crickets daily, doesn't think that the food fad will spread westwards. I think he's right. Platschau might be a small Eastern German town, but it has some pretty big foreign residents. Sonny Frank keeps 5 fully grown African elephants on his farm. The former circus trainer is hoping to be able to breed his elephant bull, Saib, with his 4 elephant cows, Timba, Mala, Kenya and Balumba. Very few elephants are born in captivity, and Sonny wants to provide elephants for circuses, which are normally the last on the list to receive them. Probably quite rightly so. Sonny's family are 7th generation circus folk, and elephants have been his passion since he was 11. The 5 animals the family own were brought from Africa, where they'd been orphaned in controlled wildlife culling. Sonny says it doesn't matter where the elephants are reared. When they arrived in Europe, they were babies. They grew up there and became accustomed to their habitat. Instead of eating African coconuts or African plants, they eat normal oats and German bread. and they like that just as much. Sonny said the change hasn't just been in the food, but all over. They have, he added, become Europeans. Sonny transports the elephants under the Washington Treaty for Animal Protection. Kenya and Balumba are his oldest elephants. They are 15 years old. And although these beautiful animals are magnificent, gentle giants, I don't think our cameraman was feeling very secure whilst taking this particular shot.
Stop. 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 Habe ich gesagt. Stop. Los. Komm mal, Junge. Komm.
Sonny says it's only a matter of time before the last circus elephants die, and he wants to make sure future generations can enjoy them. But he's also willing to let elephant cows from zoos and safaris stay at the farm in the hope they'll mate with his bull. Sonny's neighbour, Marianne Brash, thinks it's great. She says elephant manure is the best manure for the garden. You get such huge potatoes, demonstrating with her hands. So disposal of the manure is no problem. I don't think I'd want to be eating the chickens, though. Elephants in rural Germany. Wunderbar! That reminds me, I must call my mother-in-law. From Germany to Kenya, the natural habitat of the elephant. While most people like them at a distance, they would feel quite different about elephants if they became immediate neighbours. With their natural habitat rapidly shrinking, elephants here are increasingly encroaching on human developments, raiding crops and at times killing and injuring people. As far as the elephants are concerned, they have no reason to like humans. After decades of persecution and hunted almost to extinction, an elephant's instant reaction to coming across a human is to eliminate it. Farmers have lost entire crops to elephant herds in one night. Defending a crop means that lives are put at risk. In the Transmara, the conflict between man and beast has intensified over the last decade. Dr. Noah Sitati of the World Wildlife Fund explained that 2 bull elephants strayed from their usual range and came to this heavily settled area, and when people woke up and saw them for the first time, they chased them with spears. Huge numbers of people have migrated to this area because it's fertile land and high rainfall makes it ideal for farming. The new farmers have taken to cultivating maize, a crop much enjoyed by elephants who regularly plunder the maize plantations, leaving havoc in their wake. Sitati says the World Wildlife Fund is doing what it can to solve the conflict. Intent on finding a solution to the problem, the World Wildlife Fund for Nature developed a strategy to keep the elephants at bay. They provided the community with watchtowers and large torches with which to frighten the animals away. Some people bear the scars of conflict with the elephants. But the WWF is intent on finding the way to let the settlers and the elephants live in harmony. It's work which, through studies and field trials, has so far shown that it is possible for both man and elephant to live together, if not in complete harmony, then at least with a certain level of tolerance and mutual success. Unlike the traditional Maasai community from the area, the newcomers have cut down large tracts of the forest for charcoal and cultivation, essentially halving the elephants' territory. Elephants have coexisted with people for many years in this area. People love to see them in spite of the problems, so the WWF says it's up to conservationists to move in and see how best this cohabitation can be achieved. This is nature's land, and the animals have abided by nature's rules since time immemorial. This project is important because it's trying to bring people and elephants into a kind of balance, a harmonious coexistence that's acceptable to man and beast. The onus, however, lies with mankind, for we are the invaders of their space, a space they've occupied for eons until the explosion of humankind muscled its way into their world. Behind the walls of an anonymous-looking apartment building in downtown Manhattan lies America's largest private collection of turtles. A 9th-floor loft apartment, whose location must remain top secret for fear of animal traffickers breaking in, is home to around 1,300 turtles. Some of them are among the world's most endangered and expensive species, but the humid, smelly and cramped space is far from glamorous. Every inch of space houses tanks containing the weird and wonderful creatures from all over the world. Here are big, small, old, young, ugly and pretty ones from Asia, Africa and South America. But they all have one thing in common. All have been rescued from death and potential extinction by Richard August and the team from the Tewkesbury Institute of Herpetology. Tending to the turtles in the Tribeca apartment has become somewhat of an obsession for August, or a lifelong commitment, as he puts it. He acknowledges working here is a bit overwhelming. There's a lot of responsibility having this many animals and trying to keep them alive on a day-to-day basis. His work also takes him to Manhattan's Chinatown, where he helps spot turtles being sold illegally at food markets. A quick stroll around Mott Street in the heart of Chinatown, and dozens of turtles are on open display in dismal tanks. Co-founder of the Institute, Maurice Rodriguez, buys one of them in order to get a closer look at what it is the food markets are selling. The $10 animal encased in netting turns out to be a Chinese soft-shell turtle, or Dagania soplana. It's the first time August has seen this species in the US markets.
Chinese soft-shell turtle that's been imported.
August began his collection 10 years ago after rescuing a diamondback terrapin from New York's Fulton Fish Market. He bought the female on a whim, wanting to save the sorry-looking turtle from the cooking pot. That sparked what has now become his life's work, rescuing and caring for turtles in trouble. It's an enormous task he's taken on, saving the reptiles from a highly organized, highly profitable and highly illegal trade in trafficking endangered turtles. Richard is the man customs officials in New York call first when they seize illegal shipments of turtles. His Manhattan apartment contains half of the world's most critically endangered species, like the Burmese forest turtle. They have never before been bred in captivity, and August hopes to be the first to succeed. In his loft space, a pair of these rare turtles mate, believed to be the first time this has been captured on camera. Little is known about the Burmese forest turtle, and no one knows whether the conditions are right for success. He says that if nothing is done, animals which have been around for millions of years could become extinct in the 21st century. We'll see you next time on Animalia.
Maja